what's up guys, and welcome back to Move Plus. I hope you've had a good week so far. Our workout today is going to have 3 parts we're going to work through. We will kick things off with the warm-up, get the body prepped for all the hard stuff. Then we're going to go into the build workout, which is going to be a little bit of a push-pull combo. We're going to see some deadlifting and some floor press. Then we'll go into the move section, which is going to be 2 6-minute alternating EMOMs. Once we're completed with that, we will go through some mobility to finish things off. But circling back around to that warm-up, we're going to kick things off with 2 minutes of cardio of your choice. So you guys can decide what you want to do there. We're going to do 2 different movements on this one. So the first one is going to be 20 high skips. So just basically double tapping the foot, opposite arm to the leg. Once we've done 20 of them, we're going to go into 10 lateral step overs. So we've built ourselves a little bit of a block here, just going back and forth over the top. Those 2 movements will go back and forth for those first 2 minutes. From there, the next 3 minutes, what we'll do, each minute on the minute is 5 inchworms with a push-up. So we are walking it out, push up at the bottom, and then walking back in again. We'll go through 5 of those. Whatever time we have left in the minute, we're going to go into max mountain climbers. Okay, and we do that for those last 3 cycles. Good to go?
Yep.
All right, starting in 10, so 2 minutes of cardio of your choice. This is just the time to kind of ramp up into things, so start off easy. 2, 1, and go for it. So looking for nice, simple, straightforward movements, guys, things that you can jump straight into if you feel sort of body feels cold and stiff, you've been sitting at a desk or in the car all day. You want nice basic movements that are not too taxing. You're just gonna flow through those, give the body that time to kind of ramp up the intensity. So we're going back and forth between our high skips for 20 and our lateral step overs for 10. Got a deliberately fairly low target we're working with. We've just stacked a couple of plates up and just working back and forth over that. So working in some different movement planes as well, which is always good. And loosen up those joints nicely before we get into the slightly harder secondary piece to this warm-up. So if you are doing the high skips like us, guys, you want to look for the knee getting up around that hip height. And as I mentioned, we want to have like a little double tap on the foot that you're standing on. So you can see that little kind of bobbling motion M gets going on there. And then as we move back and forth on these step overs, this one's real simple, guys, not too much to it. You just want to make sure you're kind of keeping yourself balanced over the top there and make sure you're lifting the foot high enough. You don't want to clip it and go tumbling over the top. So 1 more minute, and then we'll move into that next 3-minute section. So a little bit of a coordination piece to this as well, guys. You want to make sure that it's the opposite arm to leg. Sometimes when people do this, they get into the habit of going same side. It just starts to feel a little bit funky. So if it does feel a bit weird, stop for a moment, check in that you are going right hand with left knee and vice versa. So 30 more seconds. So hopefully by now the heart rate's starting to get up, body's starting to get warm, and it's feeling a little bit more accepting of starting to push a little bit more intensity on it. So in about 15 seconds, we've got that 3-minute section coming up. So 5 inchworms plus the push-up, max mountain climbers each minute on the minute. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we try to go into a nice deep hip hinge with that inchworm, guys. You try not to bend the legs too much. If you do have very tight sort of hamstrings, hips, that sort of stuff, split the feet a little bit wider. That will give you a little more access to it. But ultimately, we want to try and work into the kind of position that M's in there where the feet are quite close. So that might take a little while to build up that hamstring flexibility, but that's what we're aiming for over time. And then just going into a nice strong push-up at the end. If you don't happen to have push-ups on the toes, guys, you can drop the knees down and do a knee push-up. That can make it a little bit more accessible. So 5 of them. Once you clear the 5, we're going to go into max mountain climbers. Got about 20 seconds left in the minute. So upper body wise, we're in pretty much the same position as that push-up top position. The legs are going to be running underneath us for these mountain climbers. We've got about 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So again, on the inchworm, walking it out, keeping that midsection nice and tight, guys. We don't want to feel like we're kind of flopping through. We want to be able to hit the brakes at the end of it and do a nice strict push-up, touching the chest to the ground. Nice work, and that's good. We've got about 30 seconds. Okay, so moving to the mountain climbers now. making sure the body gets nice and extended at the back end of that mountain climber. So reaching the leg out. Shoulders will get pretty warm with this combo. There's a lot of pressing on this one. Okay, 5 seconds. We're gonna go one more cycle of this to finish off the warm up. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So what we're really trying to do as we walk back, or walk in and out of this inchworm position, guys, is trying to get the back as flat as we can. Usually what we'll see if someone's quite tight hamstrings or anywhere kind of rear chain, that back's gonna wanna round off, the knees are gonna wanna bend, and body's gonna try to tuck into a ball rather than trying to fold in half. So do the best you can. Don't expect it to be perfect straight away. Work towards a better position, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Okay, so in the last lot of mountain climbers, 20 seconds left. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that is the warm-up done, guys. Take a little bit of recovery time. We're gonna check out build next. All right, so we're checking out the build workout now, guys. This one is gonna be 10 minutes, and what we're gonna do is every 2 minutes, we're running through the following. So the first one we have is 12 reps on right and left of a single dumbbell suitcase deadlift. So nice narrow stance. She'll do 12 in that hand, and then she'll switch hands and go on the other side, go for another 12. The second move we're gonna go through is a floor press, and this is still single dumbbell, but it's now both arms holding onto either head of the dumbbell and going through that pressing motion. So we need to get through that sequence every 2 minutes for 5 rounds. Hopefully you can get the work done in, say, about 60 to 90 seconds. That'll allow you a little bit of rest before we hit the next round. You good to go? Yep. All right, starting in 10. So we're going with that single dumbbell suitcase deadlift for 12 on right and left. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So what we're looking for with this one, guys, is getting a touch on the ground and a full stand up at the top. Those are kind of our bottom and top markers. Most important thing though is keeping that back nice and straight. So if that does kind of eliminate your ability to get all the way to the ground, just go to mid shin or just past the knees. We want to prioritize that spinal position. Over time of you working on it and asking a little bit more of those hamstrings, asking a little bit more of the flexibility, you will be able to get to the ground, but it might just take a little bit of time. We just don't want to force it by rounding the back to get there. So 12 on right, 12 on left. Notice she's got that really narrow stance, so the dumbbell's not running into the side of her leg. She's giving herself space for that weight to come straight down. Once she gets to 12 and 12, she's going to have a lay on her back and go into those 20 single dumbbell floor presses. Okay, so coming down. So setting up this one, guys, we want to see an elbow or at least a tricep contact on the floor and then a full lockout over the chest there. Our setup position with the body is head, shoulders, hips, and feet are all on the ground, and we want to keep them in contact with the ground. And this one gets fatigued and it starts to get harder and harder and your body's straining to get through it. Sometimes we'll see the hips lift or the feet lift up or the head crane up. Try to keep everything flattened down so we keep it in a nice strong position. Make sure we are getting that ground touch on the floor. Okay, so that's one round down. She's got herself about a 20-second rest there before we hit the next one. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now looking at that time frame, guys, if you found yourself struggling to get the work done in 2 minutes, you can always play around with adjusting the loading. So if you happen to have multiple options with dumbbells, kettlebells, loaded backpack, whatever it is, play around with that. Try to get it to fit that sort of 60 to 90 second kind of time frame. So there's always a little bit of rest. And if you only have the one option and you just feel like it's too heavy to get it done, play around with dropping the numbers a little bit. Instead of 12 and 12, maybe it's 8 and 8. Instead of 20 on the floor press, maybe it's 15 or something like that. Just go for what's going to fit that shape of the every 2 minutes cycle. Nice work, and that's good. right, so taking to the floor. So again, we're going to see those points of contact on the ground. Everything's planted. A big one as far as your shoulder position is, we want to try to actually push the shoulders back into the ground. So you're going to feel your two shoulder blades kind of wedge back and down, getting those lats on, getting all the muscles around the rear shoulders locked in place. So even though this is a pushing movement, we're going to pay a lot of attention to our back as well, and that's going to keep that shoulder in a really stable, advantageous position to do these presses. Now we're hopefully operating with a weight that allows us to do 20 unbroken, and same with the deadlifts, doing 12 and 12 unbroken. If you find you've gone so heavy that you've got to break it up into multiple sets, probably work on reducing the weight if you can, if you have that option. All right, getting ready to go in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this is cycle number 3. Now one thing that Em does really well with these single-sided deadlifts is she's keeping her shoulders square, right? She's not falling into the temptation to twist the body and overly reach just with that one side. If you look at her other arm, it's almost mimicking as if there is another dumbbell there, and that way she stays nice and even. That's going to keep our trunk and our back and everything in a nice sort of level, safe position. We don't want to be kind of hinging over and rotating at the same time. She's keeping nice and braced through there. The other thing she's doing really well is keeping those shins vertical, so she's not allowing the knees to duck forward. She's pushing back on those hamstrings, kind of winding them up like bungee cords, and that's going to help stand her up. Okay, moving to the press. As we move through these presses, guys, what we're thinking about is always having a nice vertical forearm, right? So you'll see at the top position, she's going to be stacked sort of mid to high chest in line with the shoulders because those arms are locked out. When she comes down, however, that's going to be a little bit more over kind of the bottom of her sternum there, or bottom of the pec line, which means it's going to have a slight little bit of an arc shape as it moves through. And that way we've got that nice vertical forearm. It's stacked under the dumbbell versus kind of folding back, going into too deep of an elbow bend, right? That's not as strong a position. If we're here in that position, it's going to work a lot better. Okay, so 3 down. Got about 20 more seconds left till we hit that next one. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. As far as the ground contact with that dumbbell, guys, you notice Em's just doing just the front head. Means you can kind of tip that down. She'll get that extra bit of reach by moving the dumbbell rather than changing her body position. So that, as opposed to when we would do, say, a dumbbell snatch or something like that, where we've got to have both heads to the ground. This is a little bit different. Obviously, going a dumbbell deadlift is going to be much deeper than, say, like if we did a barbell with the plates, that kind of props us up a little bit. Having the front end down is just going to be giving us that extra little bit of distance to the ground there. Make sure we get that contact. All right, now this double kind of head hold that she's got there, she's holding to either head of the dumbbell. If you happen to be working with a kettlebell, it can be a little trickier to do. Some options you can go with that is just grabbing the horns either side, so it'll become a very close grip press with the kettlebell. You can also kind of turn it side on, so one hand will hold the handle, the other hand will hold the round part of the bell. If you're doing that, guys, just be cautious it doesn't slip off your hands. So always good to towel off. If you happen to have chalk, use that. Make sure you've got a nice safe grip. The other way you can do it is obviously just doing a single arm press, and you would go 10 on one side, 10 on the other. As long as all the main things like the shoulder blade position is there, ground touch to lock out is there, that's the most important part. Okay, so that's the 4th round down. We're having a little bit of rest now, about 20 more seconds, and we hit the last round. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So final round on this one, guys. This is round 5. Make sure we keep all those technique pointers in check. So nice vertical shins, nice straight back, square shoulders. Also think about keeping the knees open. That's quite a common thing when people get tired. They collapse the knees on each other. So everything's nice and active. There should be no part of the body that's relaxed at all. So on the second lot of 12. Em's using her lats to keep that dumbbell kind of wound back and in line with her legs. If she was to relax, it'd probably end up quite a ways forward, which we don't want. We want to keep it nice and close to our center of gravity. Minimizes the stress on the low back. Okay, so last lot of the presses. Remember, feet, hips, shoulders, and head all stay stuck to the ground. Take that moment to push the shoulder blades back and down. So you should feel like you can kind of see your chest raising up, like you're trying to close the gap between your chest and the dumbbell. Nice work, Em. All right, so that's the last one done, guys. We've still got about 30 seconds left on that timer, so if you're still going, that's cool. We'll get to the end of this and then we'll have a look at the next section soon. Ten seconds. And that's time. So that is the build workout done, guys. Have a little bit of recovery time, get some water in, and we're gonna check out the move section next. All right, guys, we're gonna check out the move workout now. There is 2 sections to this one. Both of them are 6 minutes long, and both of them are alternating EMOMs. Now, in between these 2 6-minute blocks, there will be a 1-minute rest, so you'll get some recovery time in there. Looking at the first section, what we'll do on minute 1 is 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off of dumbbell slides. So setting up over the top, and bringing the dumbbell across the body, just going back and forth for the 50 seconds. The next minute, we have the same format of 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off. We've got a single dumbbell burpee power clean. So with this one, coming down to ground, popping up and coming up to shoulder, and we're gonna alternate from right to left with the hands as well. So we'd go into the other side as well, and then popping up. So those 2 things will go back and forth for 6 minutes. We have a 1-minute break at the end of it. We go into the second lot of 6 minutes, which is almost the same, except the minute 1 is going to be different. We've got a Russian swing for 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Okay, and that's going to be partnered with that same burpee power clean, which we looked at before. Good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right, so we are starting in 10. So 50 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. We've got the dumbbell slides up first. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So important thing with this, guys, is this is all about control. So we want to fill up the 50 seconds with work, but we want it to be good quality work. Don't just rush through it. So seeing here how Em's kind of holding her torso in place. It's not rocking side to side. She's not rushing it. She's not allowing the hips to jackknife up in the air. She's going slow and taking that time to really lock that position in. Now along the way, we can take these little strategic breaks. Em's kind of working with like a 20-second burst at a time there, with maybe a 5 to 10 second rest. That just gives you a little bit of recharge time. And just staying nice and stable. So if you find yourself going so fast or getting so fatigued that you're swaying a lot, that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing. So slow things down, try to tidy it up. 3, 2, 1. All right, so 10-second rests. I'm gonna move to our secondary movement, which is that single dumbbell burpee power clean. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So all the way flat to ground, guys. We pop up to shoulders and then we're changing hands on the way down. So obviously the bottom of this might feel a little bit funky. It's going to challenge that midsection, challenge the shoulder mobility as well, because we're going to be propped up on that dumbbell on one side. So that'll be a little bit of a test for you. We want to still make sure we get that chest fully flat to the ground. And notice at the top there, when she does that power clean, she does a little drop underneath, so a quarter squat, and then she finishes it by standing up tall. So we always want to make sure we finish that stand up. 10 more seconds. And resting. Okay, so we're going to switch back to those dumbbell slides again. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if we look at Em's setup with her hands and her feet, we've got kind of like a really narrow tripod, right? So the feet are a little wider than shoulder width, hands are probably just a little narrower than shoulder width. So it gives us the ability to stay stable even when we take the hand off the ground and take the weight of the dumbbell. We're not feeling like we're falling over. If you want to make it more and more challenging, guys, try to get the feet and the hands kind of as narrow as you can, because that takes away our base of support. But only do that if you can really do like the full 50 seconds straight, no problems, everything's completely still. So it's a matter of just kind of finding the right level for yourself. 10 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and resting. So halfway through this first section, we're going to switch back into that burpee power clean. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, the most important thing with this movement, guys, as far as safety goes and getting our body in good position, is flattening that back out before we pull it off the ground. It's tempting, especially if you happen to be working with a lighter dumbbell, just to kind of rip that dumbbell off the ground and not think about the body positioning. Notice Em's going to kind of pause just for a half a second before she takes the weight, and she just gets that spine to kind of drop flat. And that way she can really utilize her legs, her glutes, hamstrings, all that sort of thing, rather than the back just getting smashed to pieces in that rounded position. Ten more seconds. And resting. So one more cycle of each, and then we'll get that 1 minute rest. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So last lot on the dumbbell slides. One of the things I like to do with this particular movement, if you really want to kind of check in, am I staying still through those hips, is rest something on your lower back, just something light, like maybe like a rolled up towel or a couch cushion or something like that. Something that's going to give you a little bit of a warning sign. If you're starting to sway and it falls off, you know that you need to kind of sharpen up that position. It might be worth playing around with widening the feet a little bit. That'll give you a bit more stability. Also, you want to think about nice active shoulders. You can see that Em's supporting arm, the one that's on the ground, is really kind of pushing the floor away, getting that shoulder forward, locking it in place so she's not kind of slouching into it or bending that arm. 3, 2, 1, and resting. So 1 more minute before we hit that break. We've got those burpee power cleans again. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So Em's doing a switch of hands on the way down, which is ideally what we want to do. You can do it on the floor, but it can get a little bit funky to coordinate. So it's better to do how she's doing there. If you haven't done much kind of single-sided stuff or alternating stuff, guys, just take your time with that hand switch. Once you've got it to shoulder and you've completed the rep, have that other hand nice and open so you have a nice big target, and then just handing it off. Try not to sort of throw it or drop it from one hand to the other. You want to keep it in contact the whole time so we're not going to lose it and have it land on our toe or something like that. Okay, last 10 seconds, Em. 3, 2, 1, and resting. All right, so about to roll into our 1 minute break. This is a good opportunity for you to get some water in, have a little bit of a move around, stretch anything that feels tight. So 1 minute on the clock here, and then we'll go into the second section, which we'll touch base on in a moment. Okay, so we've got about 30 seconds, guys. It's going to be another 6 minute section. Minute 1 is 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off of the Russian swing. So that was the between the leg up to eye level that motion, okay? Second movement is the same dumbbell burpee power clean that we took from the first section there. So nothing changes with that one. Okay, 10 seconds. Get ourselves ready to go on those Russian swings. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So 6-minute clock here, guys. Remember, we're working 50 seconds out of the minute. You can put rest in if you need to, but try to fill up the 50 as much as you can. Save the rest for that guaranteed 10-second break. This one is going to be a little bit of a different feel in that both movements are going to be an opening and closing of the hips there, whereas the first section we had kind of more of a brace. So you'll probably find the hamstrings, glutes, lower back, legs, they're going to get pretty taxed on this one. So just coming up to eye level, guys, the arms should really not do anything at all other than just decelerating that dumbbell a little bit on the way down, controlling, so we're matching the pace. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and resting. So 10 seconds off, we go to the single dumbbell power clean or burpee power clean next. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now you notice that Em's doing a dumbbell outside of the feet, which is kind of like the primary option with this one. If you do happen to find that you're maybe really tight through the hamstrings, you find it hard to get into a good position, you can actually split the feet wide and have the dumbbell run between the legs, almost like we're setting up into like a very similar movement to that Russian swing. Okay, that's another option you can do. So that's a good one if you find it hard to get your back nice and flat and pull off the ground in a good position. Ultimately, the end game is to get as flexible as Em is here, where she can kind of set herself up, get the back flat, and just pull from that narrow stance. 10 more seconds. And resting. Okay, so having a bit of a breather. I'm going to go into the Russian swings again on this next round. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So I really want to look for nice vertical shins with this, guys. It's all about trying to get those hamstrings doing a lot of work. So if we watch Em's knees, there's going to be this slight little bend and then a real aggressive snap back to straight. So this is where the quads are going to kind of help assist with the movement. Hamstrings, glute, lower back do that opening of the hip, but then quads are going to help that knee fire off and get that nice snappy stand up. I always like to think about trying to drive my heels through the floor as I'm driving up. That way I'm not sort of tempted to kind of roll the knees and the hips forward, trying to just snap straight up to vertical. Ten more seconds. And resting. Okay, so pass halfway in this second section. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, if you have trouble with the burpee, guys, maybe you find that pressing motion off the ground really, really difficult, play around with working with an elevated front end. So if you've got some stairs or something like that, you can sort of prop up that front end, get the dumbbell and the hand on that, do a push-up or even a knee push-up if you need to, and then jump the feet and go from there. That'll kind of just shorten the range of motion, make it a little bit more accessible. Notice the catch of that power clean, the elbow is kind of shooting forward, so getting that forearm underneath or even slightly forward of the dumbbell, and we get that nice strong rack position. 3, 2, 1, and resting. So one more cycle of each, and then we are done with this move workout, guys. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So back on the swings. Now, keeping the back straight is going to be the #1 priority here, guys. You want to make sure that you're never rounding off or having any change of spinal position. We just want to pivot from the actual hip joint itself. You can see that Em's got her head and her eyes connected straight ahead. That way she's going to kind of keep that posture tall. Sometimes if we start looking down, then the head's going to tilt down, then the posture's going to start to round off with it as well. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so we've got one last minute in this move workout, guys. We're just gonna go back on the dumbbell burpee power cleans. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So strong finish here. This is gonna be the end of the workout. We're just gonna be cooling down after this. So if you've got energy left in the tank, this is where you wanna burn it. See, I'm still maintaining the exact same form from the start. Just making sure she's not letting that fatigue get to her changing body position or letting things go loose. She's still working hard to get those high hips on that prop up. Big extension into the shrug for the clean. 20 more seconds. Ten seconds. And time. All right, that is the move workout done, guys. Have a little bit of a chill. We're gonna look at some stretching to finish off next. Okay, so we're gonna finish things off now with a little bit of mobility, guys. Just get the body nice and loose after doing all the hard stuff. The first thing we're gonna do is an alternating forward fold. So we're gonna run a 1-minute clock on this one and basically just going back and forth from right to left with the foot, just hinging at the hips. So you're gonna have one foot to kind of stand on, the other one is gonna be out in front. So the one that you're standing on, you're gonna bend the knee just slightly. The other foot though is gonna turn right up, so toe to point back at you as much as you can. Keep the knee locked out and doing the best you can to kind of hinge at the hips first. The likelihood is you'll have a little bit of rounding of the spine and that's okay. We're gonna try to put it on the hamstrings to begin with rather than just rounding immediately and putting it straight to the low back. And notice the tempo that Em's doing it as well. It's very slow. It's sort of about 3 to 5 seconds per rep. Really trying to go for that nice high quality hinging position and opening up those hamstrings. So that toe up is just going to wind that stretch up a little bit more. Okay, so that's our first drill. Second one we're going to do is just a basic pec stretch. So with this one, we're going to use the wall. You guys can use a wall at home or a door frame or something like that. Basically what we'll do is just plant that hand up on about a 45-degree angle and just rotating to look over the opposite shoulder. So we'll go for 45 seconds on each side. Now we check out the stance. You can see everything she's doing is trying to anchoring herself in so she can turn away and leave that stretching side's arm behind. And we're going to get a really good stretch through pec, shoulder. You probably will get even a little bit of bicep as well. And we're just hanging out on this. You can play around with tensioning on and off. So she might kind of relax off for a moment, take a nice deep breath, and then exhale, push a little further into it. Anything like that's good. You can also play around a little bit with where the hand is positioned. So she might find that that angle is going to get her the max stretch, but you might be different. You might feel like you go a little bit lower or a little bit higher or something like that. Do a little bit of sort of freestyling with that. Okay, we'll switch sides. So just looking at getting the hand and the forearm at least on the wall, but if you can get sort of in closer to like the bicep and the shoulder getting pinned to the wall, that's even better. You can kind of use that other hand, so just using a right hand there to kind of almost press off the wall a little bit and create an even deeper stretch. So this is going to be really good just for general kind of pec, shoulder mobility. Any of our overhead things like that, it's going to help with that positioning. So we've got about 10 more seconds. And done. All right, so those are the two drills, guys. If you have time, let's go through a couple of rounds of that. Spend some time getting loose. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. And that's been your Move Plus workout.